Hi, I'm Vanessa. I've worked in corporate administration for over 10 years, and if there's one thing I've learned, it's that power doesn't always come with intelligence. Sometimes it comes with ego, insecurity, and a badge that says director. Before we dive in, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you believe revenge is best served quietly and a little bit hot. Now, let's talk about her. When the new director took over, we were hopeful. She had an impressive resume, a no-nonsense haircut, and a LinkedIn bio that screamed leadership consultant. But it didn't take long to see the truth. She wasn't a leader. She was a tyrant in kitten heels. She micromanaged everything, and I mean everything. If I printed a memo, she'd question the font. If I scheduled a meeting, she'd reschedule it just to assert dominance. She inserted herself into every conversation like she was allergic to being ignored. But the worst part? The way she treated me. I wasn't just another employee. I was the operations glue, the backbone, the person who had been there through 5 budget cuts, 3 mergers, and a pandemic. But she didn't care. She slowly stripped away everything I had worked for. She revoked my overtime without explanation, even though she let the marketing intern clock extra hours for scrolling Instagram. She excluded me from bonus rounds I used to receive. She withheld emails that involved me. She'd show up to my office pretending to ask questions, already knowing the answers, just to see how I'd squirm under pressure. She thought she was subtle. She wasn't. Then one day, I noticed her eyes lingering a little too long at the delivery guy.
Tall, kind,
Ridiculously handsome. The kind of guy who makes you straighten your posture without realizing it. I saw the way her lips tightened every time he greeted me before her. The way she'd brush her blazer sleeves when he walked past, like she was ready for her close-up. What she didn't know was, I had already beat her to him, weeks ago. We had been flirting for months. Playful smiles, lingering glances, shared snacks he accidentally forgot to deliver. He knew about my director. He knew how she treated me. And when I told him what I had in mind, he laughed and said, "That's the pettiest plan I've ever heard. I'm in." It started small. I'd time our conversations so she would catch the tail end of a joke he whispered only to me. Then we turned up the heat. One night, I used my personal key, perks of being trusted with everything for 10 years, and invited him for an after-hours visit. In the conference room, on her seat, the very one she used every Monday at 9 a.m. sharp, coffee in hand, eyebrows raised, acting like she ran the world. We had our fun. But we didn't stop there. It became a weekly thing. Same table, same seat, sometimes even on the glass surface for dramatic effect. Every Monday, I'd watch her walk into that room, adjust her skirt, sit down like she was royalty. And I'd smirk. Because I knew what had happened there the night before. I knew whose lips had brushed that surface, whose laughter had echoed off those walls. She didn't. But she felt it. She started glancing around more often, shifting in her seat like it was too warm, asking if something smelled off. I never said a word. Eventually, the delivery guy and I moved on. But the memory, that sweet, slick, delicious memory, stayed with me. Sometimes revenge doesn't have to be loud. Sometimes it's quiet, elegant, intimate. Sometimes it's letting someone sit in the consequences of their own cruelty, unknowingly covered in the echoes of your triumph. So to my dear former boss, if you ever see this, the real power was never in your title. It was in me, and the exact spot where you parked your arrogance every Monday. And if that doesn't taste like karma, I don't know what does. Vanessa stood at her desk, shoulders squared, eyes steady. It had been 2 weeks since her conference room retaliation sessions began. Small acts of rebellion performed with elegance and precision. Each time her director waltzed into a meeting, Vanessa fought back a smirk. She didn't need words. Her revenge was etched into every smug blink, every silent chuckle when the director sat on the very edge of that table, unaware of the private performance held the night before. But Vanessa was far from finished. The next step required patience, calculation. You see, power-hungry people have patterns, and Vanessa knew hers like clockwork. The director loved appearances. Her ego didn't just need feeding, it demanded an audience. So Vanessa gave her one. Phase 2 began on a rainy Wednesday. Vanessa walked into the break room just as the director was laughing with HR and marketing, loud, performative, tossing her hair like a teenager auditioning for a shampoo commercial. She was mid-story when Vanessa casually said, "Oh, did you guys see that new delivery guy's TikTok?" Silence. The director blinked. "TikTok? What TikTok?" Vanessa smiled. "He's trending. Posted a clip about corporate weirdos. Something about how some women in suits think they're entitled to flirt with him while ignoring the people who actually matter. Got a few 100,000 views. You should check it out." The reaction was instant. The director's face went rigid. She laughed it off, but Vanessa had already lit the match. That afternoon, whispers spread like wildfire. Vanessa didn't need to say more. Every shared glance in the hallway, every group chat that suddenly went quiet when the director walked by, it was all the confirmation she needed. And as the director spiraled trying to figure out what people were saying behind her back, Vanessa watched, smiling. The following week, Vanessa made herself indispensable. She volunteered to take over data reconciliation. She offered to handle project timelines. She stayed late. She played the golden employee card like a pro. But she had a plan. Late one night, alone in the office with spreadsheets, she found it. An error.
Not a small one.
A $14,000 discrepancy buried inside a poorly updated invoice system, under the director's name. The mistake wasn't Vanessa's. It predated her involvement. But the director had quietly signed off on it months ago, too arrogant to double-check her numbers. Vanessa took screenshots, made backups, printed hard copies. Then she waited. At the next departmental check-in, with the full team present, including a regional manager dialed in via Zoom, Vanessa asked a simple question. "Hey, before we move forward, I just wanted to clarify something on this vendor invoice. It looks like there's a major discrepancy. I've cross-checked it with our records. I can share the document with everyone just to make sure we're aligned." The room went silent. Her director's eyes widened. Vanessa projected the PDF on the screen.
There.
In bold. A mismatch in numbers and a signature stamped proudly beneath the error. Her director's name. The regional manager leaned forward. "Can someone explain this?" Her director fumbled. Mumbled something about miscommunication and system lag. Vanessa said nothing. Just sat back and let the room choke on the awkwardness. After the call, the director cornered Vanessa in the hallway. "Why didn't you bring that to me privately?" Vanessa looked at her calmly. "I figured transparency was important. Isn't that what you're always preaching?" She walked away. The fallout was swift. Within 48 hours, finance launched an internal audit. Vanessa, of course, was praised for her diligence. The director? She was given a formal warning. One more strike, and she'd be demoted. But Vanessa wasn't done. Oh no. This was chess, not checkers. She waited another month, built her credibility like an empire. She attended workshops, gave polished presentations. HR loved her. Leadership started CCNG her on emails the director used to receive. Then came the performance review. The director, fuming with a smile, sat across from Vanessa. "You've been consistent," she said through clenched teeth. "But you're not really leadership material. You lack initiative." Vanessa nodded. Got it. 3 weeks later, she applied for a role in a different department. Higher up, cross-functional, one the director didn't even know was opening. She got it. The announcement hit like a bomb. Her new role started Monday. The same day the director was called in for her final warning, turns out another discrepancy was found. Another oversight. Another black mark. Vanessa didn't have to lift a finger. Her new office? 3 floors up. Bigger windows. Nicer coffee. And a clear view of the parking lot, where she watched her former boss pull in each morning, flustered, coffee sloshing, energy frantic. Vanessa? She arrived early. Polished. Untouchable. She didn't need revenge. She was the revenge. And every time her ex-director walked into a meeting room, wondering if the gossip was about her, if people knew what had happened, if they'd seen the TikTok, If Vanessa had told anyone about the conference room nights, she lived in that uncertainty. Vanessa never confirmed, never denied. She just smiled. Because some people destroy their enemies with fire. But the smart ones? They let them burn themselves. The next morning, Vanessa walked into the office with the calm, radiant confidence of a woman who knew something no one else did. She wasn't just surviving anymore, she was quietly thriving in the chaos her boss, Evelyn, unknowingly orchestrated for herself. The memory of the night before lingered on her skin, in her grin, and deep in her bones. The day began with Evelyn calling an emergency staff meeting. Everyone was expected to be in the conference room at 9 a.m. sharp. Vanessa took her time, stopped by the break room for coffee, smiled at the delivery guy who gave her a knowing wink, and made her way to the conference room precisely 2 minutes late. Just enough to remind Evelyn that her power wasn't absolute. The tension in the room was palpable. Evelyn stood at the head of the conference table, fidgeting slightly, tapping her pen against her tablet, her eyes scanning every face for signs of insubordination. Vanessa didn't give her any. She slid into her seat with a soft smile, crossing her legs and tilting her head. The same chair Evelyn sat in nearly every afternoon. The same one Vanessa had propped her bare feet on just days earlier. Evelyn launched into a tirade about new procedural rollouts, client complaints, and stricter accountability. Her words were sharp, but her tone betrayed the underlying insecurity. She knew she was losing control, and she was trying to claw it back. Vanessa listened patiently, sipped her coffee, and made sure to make eye contact whenever Evelyn glanced her way.
Calm.
Neutral. Dangerous. But the real fun began later that week. Evelyn started noticing small things. An anonymous bouquet left on Vanessa's desk. A new pair of shoes Vanessa wore, designer, subtle, but definitely out of the usual budget. A whisper from the receptionist about Vanessa's late-night office hours. And most damning of all, the faint scent of cologne lingering in the conference room every morning. It drove Evelyn mad. Her paranoia took hold. She began questioning people about after-hours access. She had the janitorial staff interrogated, asked IT to audit the keycard logs, even had a security camera installed outside the conference room. But Vanessa had been careful. She knew the building's blind spots better than anyone. And the delivery guy? He was more than happy to play his part. The two of them became a quiet, unstoppable team. He started bringing Evelyn extra deliveries just to keep her distracted, cupcakes she never ordered, samples from fake reps, even a bouquet with a fake love note that drove her into a tailspin. Vanessa would watch it all unfold from her office, sipping her tea, with a smirk. Meanwhile, she began taking back power in subtle, cutting ways. She restructured her project timelines to make Evelyn's meddling impossible without exposing her ignorance. She charmed clients during meetings, subtly undermining Evelyn's authority while appearing the model employee. Coworkers began gravitating toward Vanessa, not because she asked them to, but because her calm, calculated presence felt like relief in a sea of Evelyn's chaos. Then came the office retreat. It was supposed to be a 2-day getaway meant to rebuild morale and foster team spirit. Evelyn organized it at a lakeside lodge with group activities, team dinners, and bonding sessions. Vanessa didn't want to go until she realized just how perfect the setting was for her next move. She invited the delivery guy to visit the lodge, under the guise of a logistical mix-up requiring an urgent delivery. Evelyn, eager to impress him again, insisted on handling it personally. Vanessa watched from a distance as Evelyn stumbled through the interaction, awkward and overly eager. He remained polite but cool, barely glancing at her, always keeping the conversation brief. Then he turned and smiled at Vanessa. Broad, bright, unmistakable. The rest of the team noticed. Whispers began to spread. Later that night, during the group bonfire, someone casually brought up office rumors. Jokes were made. Eyebrows were raised. And Evelyn? She snapped. She launched into a defensive monologue about professionalism, jealousy, and loyalty. Her voice cracked. Her hands trembled. It was the public unraveling Vanessa had patiently orchestrated for months. And still, Vanessa said nothing.
She didn't need to.
The next day, Evelyn called in sick. Then she took a week of personal leave. HR started asking quiet questions. Leadership began reviewing team dynamics. And Vanessa? She was asked to step in as interim team lead. She accepted with a smile. The kind of smile that says, "I told you I was patient." When Vanessa stepped into the office as the new interim team lead, the atmosphere shifted in a way no one could quite put their finger on. The tension that once hung heavy under Evelyn's reign began to dissolve, replaced by a strange mix of curiosity and cautious optimism. Some team members eyed Vanessa with suspicion. What did she want? Was this just a power grab? Others silently hoped this calm, collected woman could be the fresh start they needed. Vanessa, however, remained as composed as ever. There was no need for grand proclamations or dramatic gestures. She knew power was often quiet. The real strength was in subtlety, strategy, and timing. Her first order of business was to dismantle the overly complicated processes Evelyn had pushed so aggressively. She streamlined workflows, cut unnecessary meetings, and opened the door for team input. Slowly but surely, the workday began to feel less like a battleground and more like a place where people could actually get things done. John, a seasoned team member who'd long been weary of Evelyn's micromanagement, whispered during a coffee break, "It's like we can finally breathe again." Vanessa just smiled. Small victories were worth savoring. But even with all this positive change, Vanessa knew the real challenge wasn't the team. It was Evelyn. Rumors swirled about Evelyn's absence. Was she fired? On medical leave? Seeking professional help? Vanessa wasn't interested in gossip. She was focused on the future. Meanwhile, Evelyn sat alone in her dimly lit apartment, phone in hand, heart pounding with each unanswered call. The isolation was suffocating. She wasn't used to being sidelined, ignored. Pride battled with the realization that maybe, just maybe, she had lost her grip. Back at the office, Vanessa was in her element. She managed projects with razor-sharp precision and charmed clients effortlessly during meetings. She made sure her team felt supported and heard, creating a culture that didn't just tolerate people, it empowered them. Then one morning, the unexpected happened. An email from Evelyn popped up in Vanessa's inbox. "I'm ready to talk." Vanessa paused, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. This was it, the moment she'd anticipated for months. But she wasn't rattled. Instead, she took a deep breath and replied with the calm confidence that had become her signature. "I've been waiting." The face-to-face meeting that followed was tense but civil. Evelyn arrived with a guarded posture, but Vanessa greeted her with quiet strength. "You underestimated me," Vanessa said gently. "But I never underestimated what this team needs." Evelyn's defenses cracked. She admitted mistakes, expressed frustrations, and, surprisingly, even gratitude. It wasn't a concession, it was an acknowledgement that leadership meant more than power plays and control. Vanessa extended an olive branch. Together, they discussed how to move forward, not as adversaries, but as collaborators. Word spread quickly through the office. Evelyn was back, but this time, things were different. The toxic rivalry had shifted into a fragile partnership. Weeks later, Vanessa and Evelyn sat side by side in a team meeting, balancing authority and respect like seasoned diplomats. The projects flourished, the team's morale soared, and the office felt like a place where everyone could thrive. One afternoon, over coffee, Evelyn looked at Vanessa and said, "Thank you for teaching me patience." Vanessa smiled, "And thank you for reminding me that strength sometimes means knowing when to let go." They clinked their mugs in a silent toast to the battles won, the lessons learned, and the journey ahead. Vanessa's quiet triumph wasn't just about ousting a difficult boss. It was about transforming a toxic environment into a thriving one through strategy, grace, and unwavering patience. The weeks following Vanessa's official takeover were anything but quiet. While Evelyn's shadows still lingered in the hallways and whispered corners, Vanessa was relentless in shaping the team and the office culture into something unrecognizable from its former self. First, she tackled the invisible barriers Evelyn had built between departments. Vanessa initiated weekly cross-team lunches, casual meetups designed to break down silos and encourage collaboration. Some employees were skeptical at first. Old habits die hard, but the subtle charm Vanessa wielded made these gatherings feel less like mandatory meetings and more like opportunities to reconnect. Vanessa wasn't just reorganizing workflows, she was reigniting the spirit of the team. She personally reached out to people who had been marginalized or ignored under Evelyn's reign, inviting them to share their ideas and contribute in ways they never had before. The timid junior analyst, once overlooked, found her voice in Vanessa's meetings. The quiet designer, known for deflecting questions, began offering insights that boosted client satisfaction. Vanessa knew these small sparks were the foundation of long-term success. Meanwhile, Evelyn's absence turned from a whispered mystery into a headline. Rumors circulated. Some said she was considering legal action. Others whispered she was seeking counseling for burnout. Vanessa never let these distractions derail her focus. Instead, she channeled all her energy into solidifying her authority, not through intimidation, but through results and relationships. One afternoon, Vanessa's phone buzzed with a message from the delivery guy, the same one who'd been her silent ally all along. Got a new surprise for you. Meet me at the loading dock at 5 p.m. Vanessa raised an eyebrow but smiled. The delivery guy had become a quirky but invaluable piece in her carefully crafted game. Their collaboration was more than logistics. It was a psychological chess match designed to keep Evelyn off balance. At 5 p.m. sharp, Vanessa found him waiting near the loading dock, casually holding a nondescript package. Another distraction? She asked. He grinned. Something better. This one's for your team. Vanessa opened the box to find personalized thank you notes and small gifts for each team member, coffee mugs, notebooks, even some branded swag. No signature, no sender, just a message. Thanks for keeping things running. It was a small gesture, but it sent ripples through the office the next day. People started whispering about the mystery benefactor, unknowingly strengthening the bond Vanessa had nurtured. As days turned into weeks, Vanessa's leadership style became a case study in quiet power. She wasn't flashy or overbearing. Instead, she led with empathy, intelligence, and impeccable timing. Every move was calculated, every word weighed. But not everyone was thrilled. Some senior executives viewed her rise with suspicion. They were used to politics, power plays, and the predictable chaos Evelyn's style brought. Vanessa's calm and methodical approach was unsettling, too clean, too controlled. At a quarterly leadership meeting, Vanessa found herself facing veiled criticism. "Vanessa," one executive said with a tight smile, "your methods are unconventional. Are you sure the team can handle this new pace? Sometimes a little chaos drives creativity." Vanessa's reply was measured. Chaos is easy. Control is hard. And sustainable success requires more than just bursts of creativity. It demands consistency, trust, and clarity. The room fell silent. No one had a snappy comeback. Vanessa had just shifted the conversation and the power dynamic. Back at the office, the team noticed the change too. Meetings were more productive, feedback was welcomed, and mistakes were treated as learning opportunities instead of punishable offenses. Vanessa's door was literally always open. She wanted her people to know she was approachable, invested, and ready to support. Then came the office retreat. Vanessa had taken charge of planning it, wanting to turn what was once an awkward, forced event into a genuine team-building experience. She chose a modern conference center with open spaces, natural light, and plenty of breakout rooms for brainstorming sessions. The agenda was a balanced mix of work and play, workshops on communication, collaborative project sessions, and informal socials to build rapport. On the first evening, Vanessa addressed the team. "I want this retreat to be different. Not about politics or blame. It's about us, as people, as a team. Let's build something we're proud of." Her sincerity was unmistakable. For many, this was the first time they felt truly seen and valued at work. One night, as the team gathered around a fire pit outside, stories flowed, funny anecdotes, frustrations, and hopes for the future. Even Evelyn, invited as a gesture of goodwill, attended quietly from the sidelines. At one point, Evelyn approached Vanessa. "Thank you for including me," she said softly. "I've been forced to reflect, and I want to learn how you do it, how you turn this place around." Vanessa nodded. "It's not about winning or losing, Evelyn. It's about understanding, about patience, empathy, and knowing when to push and when to listen." Evelyn smiled, a genuine if tentative smile. The next morning, the team woke up energized. The retreat wasn't just a break from routine, it was a rebirth. Over the following months, the office culture continued to evolve. Productivity soared. Employee satisfaction scores hit all-time highs. Clients noticed the difference. And Vanessa? She had become more than a leader. She was a symbol of what steady, thoughtful leadership could achieve. One evening, after a long day, Vanessa sat at her desk, reflecting. Her phone buzzed, a text from the delivery guy. "Ready for the next move?" Vanessa smiled. The game was far from over, but she was ready. She had patience, strategy, and a team behind her. And in the end, that was all she needed. The office was buzzing again, but this time it was different. The kind of energy that comes from hard-won peace, from knowing you've climbed the mountain and finally reached a summit worth savoring. Vanessa walked through the hallways with a quiet confidence that no longer needed to prove itself, because it had. Evelyn's gradual return had gone smoother than anyone expected. The carefully negotiated boundaries weren't just respected, they became a blueprint for a healthier workplace. Evelyn found her stride in mentoring newer employees, sharing her years of experience without the old edge of control. Vanessa welcomed this transformation, recognizing that leadership was bigger than any single ego. One bright morning, as the team gathered for their weekly meeting, Vanessa glanced around the room. The usual cliques were gone. Instead, there was a sense of unity, a group that trusted their leader and each other. Ideas flowed freely. Voices were heard, and laughter punctuated the serious business of innovation. Vanessa took the floor, her voice calm but charged with purpose. "I want to thank everyone for the journey we've been on, the challenges, the changes, and most of all, the commitment you've all shown. This team is more than just a group of employees. We're a community, and together, there's nothing we can't achieve." The applause was genuine and heartfelt. It wasn't just for Vanessa. It was for what she represented: hope, resilience, and quiet strength. Later that day, Vanessa found herself alone in the conference room, the very same room where she'd once taken Evelyn's seat with a mix of defiance and determination. She walked to the window and looked out over the city's skyline, sunlight reflecting off the glass towers like diamonds. Her phone buzzed softly, a message from Evelyn. "Thank you for everything." Vanessa smiled and typed back, "Thank you for trusting me." She put her phone down and took a deep breath, feeling the weight of months lift from her shoulders. Leadership wasn't about domination or winning battles. It was about patience, empathy, and knowing when to step up and when to step back. The office door creaked open, and Evelyn stepped in, carrying 2 cups of coffee. "Thought you might need this," she said with a warm smile. Vanessa accepted the cup, their eyes meeting with mutual respect. "Here's to new beginnings," Vanessa said. Evelyn nodded. "To growth. And to knowing the real power lies in the calm after the storm." They clinked their cups softly, a simple gesture sealing the end of an era and the start of something stronger. As Vanessa sipped her coffee, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time: peace. She was ready for whatever came next. Because now, she wasn't just surviving. She was thriving.